All right, so before we get into our talk today, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been so mad, so frustrated, and so upset that you couldn't help but respond? You mean like you couldn't help but like react outwardly or inwardly at somebody?
No.
Maybe you studied super hard for that huge math test that you had and thought you knew literally all the answers. You sped through it because you're like, I have this down. I know it. And you got your test back and the grade was nowhere near what you thought it should be. Like maybe an F or a D because you thought, oh, I got this down. And you felt so crazy you wanted to pull your hair out like that, or you just wanted to throw your test in the air or something like that. Or maybe the bully in school keeps picking on your best friend, and literally no matter what you do, what you say, how you act towards the bully, no matter what, they keep being awful to you. And so it makes you want to walk up to them and, I'm not condoning this, punch them in the face. You ever want to do that? Or maybe maybe you want to go to the party. All your friends are going to the party. Literally everybody's going to the party. And your parents told you, no, we're going to grandma's house this weekend. Ever happen? And so you just want to literally pull your hair out because you're like, this is no fair. Everybody else is going to be there. Everybody's going to think I'm lame because I'm not going to the party. Ever? Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just me. Got it. All right. So let's be honest. We've all felt some anger towards things before, and if you have not, you are a perfect person because I think all of us have been. You may not call it angry. You may call it frustrated or upset, but it's all the same emotion. And I can tell you for sure, I've been that. I've gotten, I don't know why, I had a story to tell you and now I've forgotten. I've literally gone and done something and then gotten done and went, why did I do that? Okay, here's the story. I remembered it now. Here we go. I am super competitive. I don't know if you guys know this. I like to win. I hate to lose. And so I used to get super upset when we would play board games when I was growing up, and I would get close to losing. I'd be like, oh, I'm just done, and just walk away. Literally, I'd be so mad that I was about to lose that I would just walk away. I'd be so angry. And maybe you're not exactly like me and get so mad at board games because you think that's dumb because it's just a game. But I'm competitive. I have to win. We all are unique, right? We all are made up differently, and we all get mad at different things. Maybe the one thing that we can all relate to is that feeling in itself, being mad, being angry, or the mood behind all of it. Maybe you get angry when your parents punish you for something, but then let your sibling get away with it. And some of you guys don't look at your siblings. I know you guys have them here. But and some of you guys think that's so unfair. Or maybe you get angry when you just can't get the new TikTok dance down. Maybe you get angry when you lose the big game, just like me, because of a bad call. Maybe you get angry when you find out that your friend is talking about you behind your back. I'd be super upset about that too. Maybe for your anger comes from not getting something you want, and somebody else gets it who you think actually doesn't deserve what they got, like an award, the first chair in band, or whatever it is, the starting role, whatever it is. Whatever the reason is behind our angry, it can be easy for us to fall into the trap of letting it take over our lives. We could let it consume every part of our life if we just don't take control over it. And when we feel anger like this, we usually respond in one of two ways, probably. Some of us experience what I call outward anger, and it's self-explanatory. The kind of outward anger it's obvious, it's an outward sign that you're angry. Maybe you lose your temper, you slam doors or you throw stuff or whatever. Maybe that's it. Maybe you scream, maybe you yell, maybe you get really loud, maybe you punch something or get physical. When you're angry, everybody around you knows you're angry. Like, they see it. It's outward. They see that you're angry. Or others of us have more of what I would call inward anger. You get angry because, and you show it differently. It's not that you don't explode or get loud, but the people around you still know how angry you are because you just shut down. You stop talking, you kind of just sit there. Or you close off, you get silent, you cut people out quietly but intentionally out of your life. And your anger may not be as loud, but the silence may be even louder than if someone was being loud and screaming at you. Some of us may even have what's called protective anger. And this one is tricky because this is anger for some of the right reasons. It can be outward or it could be inward. It's anger at something wrong, evil, bad. Like it's whenever you get upset about your friend who's getting bullied. That's a kind of justified anger, right? You see those things happening, and that anger kind of stirs up inside of you, and you want to do something or say something to just make it right. Lots of great things have happened in history because people chose protective anger. For example, there's this girl called, her name is Greta Thunberg. She's a teenager who was angry about how people were treating our planet, how people were treating the environment. And so she became an activist for climate change. And so many times you can do things if you just use protective anger. Maybe you've even experienced protective anger yourself whenever you saw someone getting bullied on social media, someone commenting something, and it got under your skin because it was digging at the other person. The anger itself comes from the right place, but it's still about the same thing as most of our other anger. The idea that somebody or something else, they didn't get what they deserve. And here's what I think is most important for us in this. Anger isn't wrong. Anger isn't wrong. The mood, the feeling, the emotion, that's not a bad thing. It's when it starts to control us and it starts to begin to be the boss of our lives. That is when it has the potential to do more harm than good for us. It's okay to be angry. I mean, this isn't in my notes, but I don't know if you know, but Jesus was angry at one point. And he went into the temple, the place where the Jews went to make sacrifices, and people were selling stuff. And so Jesus walked in and flipped over the tables because they were doing things wrong. They weren't doing things right. And so Jesus was angry with them, but he didn't. He was angry, but he didn't let it control him. And so, how do we manage our anger? How is it anger that threatens to control us? How do we manage it? How do we get over it? How do we help it to not hurt us, to hurt our relationships with others? How do we get that to happen? We're going to take a look at a book of the Bible called James. James is the brother of Jesus. He's actually the half brother of Jesus because Jesus' dad was not technically Joseph. So you get what I'm saying. He's the half brother of Jesus. So I think it's safe to say that he literally was up close and personal with Jesus. He grew up with Jesus. Mary was his mom. Joseph was his dad, and so they had a great relationship. And James was writing some of the Christians in his days, and he was telling them about their anger and how to live out exactly what Jesus was teaching. And so to understand how to handle our anger, it says this in James. Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by good deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but is earthly. It is unspiritual. It is demonic. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and evil practice. That's James 3:13 through 16. So we're going to break this down. First, it says, who is wise and understanding among you? And you may have heard that word wise before. You guys know what wise means? Kind of? Yeah. To be wise is different than being smart. You earn wisdom from experience. Like, people who are older usually are wiser because they've experienced more. If you're wise, you take what you've experienced and you learn from it. James asked his audience to consider which of them is wise and which of them was going to learn from the things they've experienced and go forward differently. And so James started by saying that we can show we are wise by the way that we live. We can show how we are wise by the way we live, the way we treat people, the way that we view other people, the things that we demonstrate our faith in God. We can demonstrate how wise we are through those things. Those things are going to be a sign of the wisdom in our hearts. And so if we have bitterness, envy, selfishness, anger in our hearts, then our actions and our words and our responses will show that, right? Any place in our hearts that's filled with those things, well, that's where James says that we'll find disorder and evil. And if we allow those things to exist on our hearts, they will come out in our lives in form of anger. And so anger itself isn't bad, but what we do with it can be. See, when it comes to anger, we have a choice. We have a choice to either let it take over our lives or for us to make a decision to not let it control everything. When we're faced with anger, we can control how we handle and respond to it, right? We can decide if we're going to let it be the boss of us or not. And I don't want to be ruled by anger. And so James says this in James chapter 4, verse 1. It says, "What is causing the quarrels and fights among you? Don't they come from an evil desire at war within you?" James wanted us to know that if we want to keep anger from being the boss of us, from being in control of us, we have to understand where it comes from. We have to get to the source. We have to get to the root of where we are getting angry from. And in James's word, the anger starts with evil desires at war within us. So it's dramatic language, but I think James is actually saying this. He's saying our anger is not about getting what we want. It's selfish, jealousy, bitterness. It's wanting to fight with people. That is where our anger really starts. And often it's about things not happening the way we thought they were supposed to happen, right? That happens all the time. Maybe we think we should have been the one in the lead for the play. And so we get a little bit angry because we thought we should have gotten better. We think our friends should have treated us a little bit better. We think our parents should have tried harder to stay together because that's what our family deserves. Or maybe we feel that someone else didn't get what they deserved. We think our siblings should have been punished because they were doing something wrong. We think our boyfriend or girlfriend should have been more upset about the breakup. We think our dad should apologize for the way he treats our family, or our mom should feel bad for leaving us. And all of these feelings, those desires and feelings of anger, James said, are battling within us. And so there's one thing they're about: control. We have this idea of how our life is supposed to be, right? They call it the American dream for people. Like, we have the dream that our lives are going to be perfect. We're going to have everything we want. We're going to live this perfect life. But we know that our lives are so different than perfect, right? And if you're living a perfect life, I think you're looking through some rose-colored glasses, because I mean, you mess up, we mess up, we all mess up, and it all gets under other people's skins, and it can be the root of some of our anger, because we've all messed up. And being angry at people around us and our circumstances, angry at ourselves, and maybe even angry at God sometimes is the root of everything. And as James said, those feelings can damage our relationships. Being angry at the people and our circumstances and at God can damage the relationships that we had. And they can lead to fights, quarrels, and to be honest, lots of other negative things, right? Because when we let our anger control us, what we say, what we do, how we act, it becomes the boss of us. What did we say last week? Jesus offers us a better way. He offers us a better way in our life. He offers us freedom from letting our moods, our emotions, our attitudes from controlling our lives. He offers us a way for us to manage our big feelings. And you see, anger doesn't have to be the boss of you. You see, you may be thinking, well, that's easy for you to say, but when I feel angry, it's literally all I feel, and I just want to let it out. I can't hold it in. I get it. Sometimes we fall into that trap of letting our anger control us, of letting our anger be the boss of us. But we have to learn how to manage our anger and manage those big feelings and not let them control us. And so here's what I think we can do to start. I'm going to tell you 3 things. Number 1, take a step back. When we're angry, usually we feel like we need to react. We need to respond. We need to get loud, fight, whatever it is. But the reality is we don't have to, do we? We don't have to respond. We can choose to take that step back, to not decide to yell, to not text someone, to not cut someone out of our lives, to not cuss someone out. We can take control and not let anger be the boss of us. And that's a big step. Number 2, the second thing we can do is to be honest. In order to really understand our anger, we have to be honest about where it's coming from, right? We can't just say, I'm just angry because of this. We have to really identify what actually did set us off. What really did make us angry? How did we get disappointed, jealous? Is this part of the root of our anger? Jealousy, fear, disappointment, grief, pain, frustration? Those not so great desires and expectations that James talked about? Name those things. Really name those things that frustrate you and be honest about it. And then talk to God about the reasons for your anger. Invite Him into what you're feeling and let Him actually take control over those emotions, those feelings, those reasons that you feel angry. Let Him control those things. And so if you're struggling to understand where your anger is coming from, talking to someone else about it can be a really good thing. It can be a really good first step to figuring it out. And so maybe you need to talk to your small group leader about, I'm getting angry all the time and I don't know why. They may not know the exact answer for you, but maybe they can help you walk through it. Maybe you need to talk to your parents or a trusted friend. There you can open up and be honest and try and figure out what is the root of why I'm angry and figure it out. Because again, we can't let anger be the boss of us, and we can process things and go a different way with it. And number 3, we have to own our own part. And this is the hard part, right? Owning our own part in being wrong and why we get angry is hard. I mean, sometimes we say something that makes somebody else mad, and then they say something back that makes us mad as well, make us angry as well. And so we have to own our own part. There is 2 sides to the whole story, right? And so we have to own what we have done. We're mad because we are out of control, but there's one thing we can actually control: ourselves. So take control, own yourself, own your part. And so we have to own these feelings. And I want to mention a 4th thing I didn't put up here. Realize how to release your anger. There's good ways and there's bad ways to release your anger. And sometimes I'm going to give you my example. My example is to go run. Like if I'm really frustrated, it's my biggest way to release most of my emotions is to go and work out. Maybe for you, it's to put some headphones in for a little bit and to listen to some music so you can calm down. Maybe for you, it's to go and punch a punching bag for a little while. Whatever it is, figure out a way to release that anger that's not going to hurt somebody else. A way that's really going to help you to process through that anger and to process through what you're going through. You see, when we take that step back and we process things, when we release our anger and we are honest with our feelings, because that's part of releasing that. We have to be honest with ourselves that we are angry, and then we are able to take responsibility for the way we act and the way we treat other people. And we're choosing to be wise then with our anger, just like James told us to do. And we're choosing to look at what's going on inside of us and maybe even outside of us, and to take control of it and help God take control of it too. And so remember, anger doesn't have to be the boss of you. And so as you go into small groups, I want you to think about this question: what's one thing that makes me really angry? What's one thing that makes me really angry? Let's pray. God, I thank you for this day. I thank you for loving us. And God, I pray that we can continue to grow in you, God. And God, that we can give ourselves over whenever we start to get angry. That whenever we start to get upset, that whenever things don't go our way, God, instead of blowing up on people, getting super angry at people, or shutting down, God, that we can process through that emotion and come out healthier because you helped us walk through it, God. God, I pray for our small group time, God, that you can help us to have conversations about this. It's in your Son's name we pray.